All right, get ready, because today we're going deep, like
Yeah.
really deep. We're talking the Kybalion and one of its most fascinating principles, the principle of polarity. You can think of it kind of like that scene in The Matrix, where Neo takes the red pill and
Yeah.
suddenly, boom, the whole world opens up. It's like that. But instead of kung fu and dodging bullets, we're going to be like deciphering the secrets of the universe.
What always gets me about the Kybalion is how it takes something as basic as opposites, right? And it shows you there's this whole other level of depth there. Like, it's almost like they knew something we didn't.
Okay, so for those of us who maybe haven't spent hours down internet rabbit holes, can
Yeah.
you give us the Spark Notes version of what the Kybalion is all about?
Totally. So the Kybalion, it's this ancient text that lays out these 7 Hermetic principles. They're kind of like universal laws that govern, well, pretty much everything, from the physical world to our own thoughts and emotions. And this principle of polarity we're talking about today, it basically says opposites. They're not really separate. They're actually 2 sides of the same coin, 2 ends of a spectrum.
My brain is already starting to do somersaults. So he's saying, like, instead of thinking light and dark as totally different things, we should see them more as, I don't know, like settings on a dimmer switch.
You got it. That's a brilliant analogy. Just like you can tweak the brightness with a dimmer switch, the Kybalion says we can kind of do the same with our thoughts and emotions, even our whole experience of life.
Wait a minute, are you saying we can, like, control reality with our minds? Is this some Jedi mind trick stuff?
Not exactly mind control, no, but influence, definitely. The Kybalion is big on the power of our minds to shape how we see reality and how we experience it. It's like choosing a different filter on Instagram, but for your whole life.
Okay, that is both super exciting and maybe a little scary.
Yeah.
So where do we actually see this in action? Like, in the real world, Hit me with some examples because I'm officially intrigued.
Okay, let's start simple. Temperature. We feel hot and cold as opposites, right? But they're really just different degrees of heat. Imagine stepping out of a freezing cold lake into a lukewarm bathtub. Suddenly it feels like a sauna.
So it's all relative.
Yes.
Maybe those penguins down in Antarctica are actually thinking, wow, it's tropical today.
You got it. And that whole relativity thing, it applies to way more than just temperature. The Kybalion would say a lot of things we see as polar opposites. They're actually connected in ways we might not even realize.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. Give me another example because I am loving this.
How about east and west? We think of them as opposite directions, right? But if you keep going east, guess what? You eventually end up back where you started. Just like in those old video games, you walk off one side of the screen, you pop up on the other.
Oh my God, like Pac-Man. That little yellow dude was a polarity master and didn't even know it.
Exactly. And that idea of everything being connected, it goes way beyond just directions. The Kybalion suggests even things that seem totally unrelated could be part of the same spectrum.
All right, this is making my head spin in a good way. But tell me, how does understanding all this polarity stuff actually help us in our lives? Like, practically speaking.
Well, one of the most mind-blowing applications is something called mental transmutation, which is essentially the ability to shift your mental and emotional state by tapping into this principle.
Hold on, are we talking about Jedi mind tricks here?
Maybe not quite Jedi level, but there are definitely parallels. The Kybalion says that just like we can adjust the brightness on a dimmer, we can also adjust the intensity and even the nature of our thoughts and feelings.
Okay, I'm 100% on board with that. Hit me with some examples because this is something I need in my life, like yesterday.
Imagine you've got to give a big presentation at work. Most people, they'd feel fear and anxiety, right? But what if, instead of trying to squash that fear completely, you could shift it towards excitement or even confidence?
So it's kind of like, I don't know, like Beyonce saying she gets nervous before a show, but she calls it stage excitement.
Yeah.
And uses that energy to, like, fuel her performance.
You nailed it. That's a perfect example. And this goes beyond just dealing with your own emotions. The Kybalion suggests this understanding of polarity can actually extend to influencing other people.
Whoa, hold up. Now we're getting into some serious territory. Are you saying we can, like, control people's minds with this?
Not control exactly, but influence, yes. Remember that idea of everything being connected? Well, the Kybalion talks about something called mental induction, where one person's mental state can actually affect another's.
Okay, now things are getting really interesting. How does that even work? Some kind of telepathy.
Think of it like tuning forks, right? If you strike one, a nearby fork tuned to the same frequency will start vibrating too.
Yeah, it's like they're magically linked through those invisible sound waves.
Precisely. And the Kybalion suggests something similar can happen with our mental and emotional states. If someone is giving off strong positive vibes, it can actually trigger similar vibes in the people around them.
So you're saying, like, if I hang out with someone who's super chill and optimistic, their good vibes might rub off on me.
That's a great example. And the flip side is true too. If you're always around negativity, it can be tougher to stay positive.
This is starting to make a lot of sense. So by understanding this polarity thing, we can not only master our own minds and emotions, but also potentially influence others.
That's the core of it. It's about recognizing we're all interconnected and our inner states have a ripple effect on the world around us.
Wow, that's both empowering and, like, kind of humbling.
Absolutely. The Kybalion wants us to see ourselves not as isolated individuals, but as part of this huge web of energy. Think of it like the Force, but instead of lightsabers, we're wielding good vibes.
Okay, I'm officially sold on this principle of polarity. What else does the Kybalion say about how this all works?
Well, one fascinating concept is that positive mental states, they naturally tend to dominate negative ones. Like there's this built-in magnetic pull towards the positive, just like, in Lord of the Rings, how the good guys eventually win, even when the odds are totally stacked against them.
So you're saying positivity is actually stronger than negativity. Like,
Yeah.
it's not just wishful thinking, it's a fundamental law of the universe.
That's what the Kybalion suggests, yeah. It's not about pretending negative emotions don't exist or trying to ignore them, but recognizing they don't have as much power as their positive counterparts.
So it's not about denying our struggles, but understanding we have the power to choose which emotions we focus on and amplify.
Exactly. By focusing on cultivating positive mental states, we tap into this natural force that can help us overcome challenges and just live more fulfilling lives. Kind of like how Harry Potter eventually defeats Voldemort, because love is ultimately more powerful than fear.
This is making so much sense. Are there any other, like, analogies that can help illustrate this whole positive dominance thing?
The Kybalion uses a great one, comparing a candle and a spotlight. The candle represents a negative mental state, while the spotlight represents a positive one.
Okay, I'm picturing it. The candle is small, flickering, easily blown out. The spotlight is, like, huge, bright, powerful, basically the Beyonce of light sources.
Exactly. That's the idea that Kybalion is trying to get across. Positive mental states, they have this inherent strength and resilience that negative ones just don't.
This is giving me so much hope. So even when things feel tough, there's always this underlying current of positivity we can tap into.
That's the beauty of this principle. It reminds us we're not just at the mercy of our circumstances or our emotions. We have the power to choose where we focus our attention and energy.
This has been mind-blowing. I'm feeling so inspired by this whole concept of polarity. But before we wrap up this part, can you give us a little sneak peek of what else the Kybalion has to say about how we can use this principle to really live our best lives?
The Kybalion goes into how understanding polarity can benefit countless areas of our lives, from building stronger relationships to achieving our wildest dreams and even influencing the world for the better. It's about realizing you're not just watching the movie of life. You're the director, the screenwriter, and the lead actor all rolled into one.
Wow, that is a powerful message. I can't wait to unpack even more of this in part 2 of our deep dive into the principle of polarity. But for now, I need a minute to let all this goodness sink in. This is definitely one I'm going to have to re-listen to a few times to absorb all the brilliance.
I'm right there with you. And for listeners who are eager to explore further, I highly recommend checking out weiwat, the Kybalion blog. They break down these complex concepts in a way that's both super informative and entertaining.
Great suggestion. We'll be sure to include a link to that in the show notes. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey. We'll see you back here soon for part 2.
Wait, what?
Welcome back to our deep dive into the principle of polarity.
It's like we've leveled up in a video game or something, and now we're exploring all these cool new features.
And the best part is these features aren't just in the game. They're tools we can use in real life to make things better.
Okay, so how do we actually put this stuff into practice? I'm all about those practical tips and tricks.
One area where this principle can be super helpful is managing how we react when things get tough.
Oh, tell me about it. My go-to move is usually panic and imagine the worst. It's like my inner drama queen takes over.
Well, picture this. Instead of letting that inner drama queen run wild, you're the director, calmly calling cut and choosing a different scene.
Okay, I can see how that would be useful. But how do I actually do that?
The Kybalion is all about becoming aware of our thoughts and emotions. It's like mindfulness, but with a touch of ancient wisdom. Notice when you're starting to slide towards a negative pole, like Anger, fear, self-doubt, that kind of thing.
So it's about catching those negative thoughts before they spiral out of control.
Exactly. It's like spotting those gremlins before they get wet and turn into a whole mess.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've spotted the gremlin. Now what? How do I stop it from messing with my head?
That's where the principle of polarity comes in. Remember that spectrum we talked about? Instead of getting stuck at the negative end, you can actually choose to shift towards a more balanced state.
So it's like I have remote control for my mind,
Mm.
and I can change the channel from doom and gloom to something more upbeat.
That's a fantastic way to put it. You have the power to decide which thoughts and emotions you want to focus on.
I'm digging this positive playlist for my mind idea.
Yeah.
But are there any other techniques to, like, really crank up those good vibes?
Visualization is another powerful tool. Instead of replaying that embarrassing moment in your head over and over, visualize yourself nailing a similar situation in the future.
So it's like creating my own mental highlight reel, where I'm always the star.
Exactly. You're basically rewriting the script in your mind. And the Kybalion would say that by doing so, you're actually influencing your future experiences.
This is making me totally rethink how I talk to myself. It's not just about being nice, it's about actively shaping my reality with my thoughts.
That's a powerful insight, and the more you practice these techniques, the easier they get. It's like working out your mental muscles to become more resilient and flexible.
So it's not about becoming some kind of emotionless robot. It's about gaining more control over my inner world.
Exactly. It's about being the ruler of your emotional kingdom, not letting your reactions rule you.
I love that. So next time I feel that wave of anxiety coming on, I can remember that I have the power to ride it out instead of getting swept away.
Perfect analogy. And just like surfing takes practice, so does mastering your mental and emotional state.
This is all so empowering. But what about those times when things feel really, really heavy? Like when you're dealing with a huge setback or you just feel totally overwhelmed. Can this principle help then too?
Absolutely. The Kybalion would say understanding polarity is especially important
Hmm?
during those tough times because it's when we're faced with those challenges that we have the biggest opportunity for growth and transformation.
So you're saying challenges aren't something to be afraid of, but a chance to level up our mental and emotional skills.
Exactly that. Think about those epic training scenes in superhero movies. The hero has to go through intense trials to develop their superpowers.
I do love a good training montage. So next time I'm facing a challenge, I can tell myself, hey, this is just my own personal superhero training program.
You got it. And remember, you don't have to go through it alone. Just like superheroes often have a team, we can lean on our support system too.
That's so true. Sometimes just talking to a friend or a loved one can help me see things differently and remember I'm not alone.
And don't underestimate the power of mental induction. Surrounding yourself with positive, supportive people can boost your own positive energy and help you through those rough patches.
It's like building a shield of good vibes that can block out negativity.
Precisely. And if you see someone who's struggling, you can use that same principle to lift them up. Even something small, like an act of kindness or just listening, can make a huge difference.
This is seriously amazing. It's like we've been given this secret weapon to not only improve our own lives, but to make the world a better place too.
That's the heart of these Hermetic principles. They're not just about personal growth, they're about recognizing that we're all connected and using that understanding to create positive change.
Okay, I'm feeling so inspired and motivated right now. I want to put all this into practice, like right now. But before we get carried away, let's recap some of the key takeaways from this part of our deep dive.
Great idea. We've talked about becoming more aware of our thoughts and feelings and using techniques like choosing our thoughts and visualization to shift towards a more positive state of mind.
And we learned that challenges are actually opportunities for growth, just like those training montages in our favorite superhero movies.
And maybe most importantly, we realized we have more power over our thoughts and emotions than we think. We're not just along for the ride, we're in the driver's seat, and we get to choose where we're going.
Wait, what?
All right, welcome back to our deep dive into the principle of polarity. We've covered so much ground already, like reframing fear as excitement and the idea that positivity might actually be more powerful than negativity. But now I'm super curious about how all of this applies to relationships. I mean, who doesn't want more harmony and connection in their lives, right?
It's amazing how the Kybalion takes this principle that we've been exploring on a personal level, and it's like, boom, it applies to relationships too. It's like realizing that the same forces shaping our inner world are also at play in how we connect with other people.
Okay, so tell me more about that. Does this mean we should be looking for people who are like,
Mm.
are perfect, energetic opposites? Or is it something more complicated than that?
It's definitely more nuanced than just finding your opposite. It's more about understanding that every relationship has this dynamic interplay of energies. The Kybalion suggests we're all constantly emitting these mental and emotional vibes. It's like we're all walking around with our own personal theme music.
So instead of opposites attract, it's more like vibrations interact.
Exactly. And those interactions can create either harmony or disharmony, depending on what kind of vibes we're putting out there. Think of it like mixing musical notes. Some combinations create beautiful chords, and others just clash and create a mess.
I love that analogy. It explains why sometimes you meet someone and you just click instantly, like you're both jamming in perfect harmony, and other times it feels like you're trying to play a duet with someone who's tone deaf.
That's a perfect example. And the Kybalion would say a lot of that comes down to the alignment or misalignment of our mental and emotional polarities. When those frequencies are in sync, we feel connected and at ease. But when they're clashing, we might feel tension, misunderstanding, even conflict.
This is making me rethink my whole approach to relationships. It's not just about finding people who share my interests or personality. It's also about being aware of the energy I'm bringing to the table.
That's a huge takeaway. Just like we've been learning to manage our own mental and emotional states. The Kybalion suggests we can use the principle of polarity to consciously cultivate the kind of energy we want in our relationships.
So instead of trying to change the other person or wishing they were different, it's more about focusing on what I can control, my own energy and intentions.
Exactly. It's a powerful shift in perspective.
Yeah.
And remember that concept of mental induction we talked about? The Kybalion suggests that plays a big role in relationships too.
Oh, right, the tuning fork thing. So if I'm projecting those positive vibes, it can actually influence the people around me to feel more positive too.
That's the idea. The more you cultivate those positive states within yourself, the more they'll radiate outwards and affect how you interact with others. It's like you become a walking good vibe generator, subtly influencing the energy of everyone you meet.
This is giving me so much hope. So even if a relationship is going through a rough patch, there's always the potential to turn things around by focusing on my own energy and intentions.
Absolutely. Remember the concept of positive dominance. The Kybalion suggests positive mental states are inherently stronger than negative ones. So by consistently choosing love, understanding, and compassion, even when it's tough, you can start to tip the scales towards harmony.
This is making me rethink so much about how I show up in my relationships. It's not about pretending everything's perfect, but about bringing my best self to the table and trusting that that energy will ripple out and make a difference.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And remember, it's not about ignoring your own needs. Healthy relationships have a balance of give and take. But by understanding this principle of polarity, you can consciously choose to create more of the energy you want to experience.
This is so empowering. It's like we've been given this secret code for creating more loving, fulfilling, and harmonious connections.
And the best part is, it's not about finding the perfect partner or waiting for someone else to change. It all starts with you and the energy you cultivate within yourself.
Wow, this has been an incredible deep dive into the principle of polarity. We explored so much, from understanding opposites to the idea that we can shift our mental and emotional states and create positive change in the world around us. What a powerful reminder that we're all connected and that the power to create positive change starts within each of us.
I'm so glad you found this exploration valuable. And remember, this is just the beginning. There's so much more to discover within the Kybalion and its 7 principles.
And for our listeners who are feeling inspired to dive deeper, don't forget to check out weiwat's The Kybalion blog. It's a fantastic resource for anyone who wants to explore these concepts further.
Absolutely. And until next time, remember that you have the power to choose your thoughts, shape your reality, and create the life you desire. Thanks for joining us on this journey of discovery.
Wait, what?